I will speak slowly, don't worry, because English is not my first language. I'm a writer, and in this case, I'm a producer of this project and then the documentary. I will show you, first of all, the trailer, and then we'll go through the project.
Io direi che, non so se ti ho risposto, però no, questa cosa dal punto di vista è importante.
Così o così? Il cinema si legge in orizzontale, non si legge in verticale.
Portami via dai momenti, da questi anni invadenti.
Yasu, Telegabanyo, Telegabanyo.
Stiamo andando verso Ortigia. Qua è la pesce. Abbiamo mangiato un panino. Con carne di cavallo. Buono. Ketchup, maionese.
Stavo aspettando l'autobus. Speriamo che passa. Pare che siamo nel deserto. Mais dans la vie, quand même, faut toujours respirer. On sait jamais. On sait jamais ce qui viendra demain.
So before explaining and getting into how this project was made and what you can see from the documentary, etc., I wanted to give you a little bit of context of what's going on in Italy right now. So this woman, Josefa, this picture has been taken when she was rescued not far away from the Libyan coast after being 48 hours in the water. She's been rescued and she became a media sensation because this woman, Francesca Totolo, which is like a journalist, pointed out that there was something weird about her. She said that she had her nails done. Can you see here? She has her nails done. And she thought it was quite impossible that someone who's been 48 hours on the water could have her nails done. So basically, she was trying to point out that this was all a fake, that she was an actress, or she wanted to dismiss the work of the ONG that instead of saving and rescuing her, would just like paint her nails or doing some manicure. When I just read this news, I was astonished because it was so perfect that even if you are someone who reads a lot of information all day, you're like, is this possible? How can someone who actually stays 48 hours in the water can still have her nails done, right? It's weird. So I kind of digged and waited for more information, and finally, after a few days, another journalist from another magazine, L'Internazionale, who was actually in that ship named Open Arms, it's a Spanish NGO ships, she actually discovered that that woman didn't have the nails done. She just, you know, they just did it for her to relax her, because it's something that they do while you have like a trauma, and you know, they take care of you. So she made a tweet and she wrote the real story. See, she's been rescued and she doesn't have her nails. There's no nail on her fingers. Same thing happened. Sorry, I can't. Okay, it's here. Same things happened with these boys. The press, the social media started saying that these boys were puppets, that it wasn't true that people were dying, that, okay? So it is not easy to see what's fake and what's right now. I mean, fake news are everywhere, and this word, fake news, I think it's just a new way to call a very old concept, which is propaganda. Many years ago, in a concentration camp named Terenziersd, who was for the Nazi the retreat for very important Jewish persons, the Red Cross in 1944 wanted to visit because the news that they were doing atrocities spread around. What the Nazi did is they kind of forced the Jewish people to paint the shacks, to fake that they were having cultural activities. It was pretty much incredible. So Terenziersd, that it was like a cool place, which actually was just a transition camp from, you know, going to Auschwitz. So going back to when we started the project, which was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, you know, we were on the verge of a huge emergency, a big migration. Every day people were coming from the sea or from the land. And the news were all about this incredible emergency. It was very difficult to know more about who were these people, because the numbers were incredible and the emergency and people were dying. So we would have like, you know, a lot of statistics, numbers, the age of people, the country where were they coming from, but we didn't really know exactly who were these people. The emergency was basically eating everything. People were dying every day, and it was very hard. It was a huge emergency. But we opened our states, we started building infrastructure to help these people, you know, organize themselves. We would talk about integration. We tried to do our best to face an incredible emergency. Then, very recently, things have started changing, and we went through another emergency. Basically, all of a sudden, we close our borders. We don't get to have the ships to our ports. I don't know if you're familiar with this Aquarius story. It's a ship that had many refugees, and we didn't accept it in Italy. In the end, it went to Spain after like 10 days. Or the Diciotti one, which stayed in Catania for a week before people could actually go on the land. So basically, all of a sudden, we changed narration, and from talking about integration and trying to think what we could do, we actually talking about rejection, from reception to rejection. This has been the last 2 years, basically. It is difficult to know what to think about this. Natalia Ginzburg, which is a great writer, Italian writer, whose family was persecuted during the fascism, said that charity and justice are the most important virtues, but that justice is more important because if you don't have it, charity doesn't know how to act. It doesn't have any kind of reference. So do we still have charity and do we still have justice in Europe? This is not really the focus of our project, but there is a question that talks about our project, which is, how did we get here? And I think the answer is narrative. So when we started thinking about our project, we wanted to know a little bit more about refugees, and we were, as I told you, confused by the news, the emergencies. It was very difficult to have a real touch on who were these people. So browsing around many informations, we discovered an incredible thing. At least at the time, it seemed very incredible, that these people that were flying from war zones, starvation, persecution, arrived in Italy even with no shoes, nothing extreme, but they had a cell phone. They had a cell phone because a cell phone was very important, of course. It is for them not only a way of communicating with the people that they have left, but it is also something that can be useful if they have someone in the place where they get. So before the cell phone, it was very difficult to do everything like that. I mean, it was difficult to get to know people and to get to have information. But now, the only thing you need is a Wi-Fi. So basically, we understood that this was a digital migration, that it was the first digital migration, and that everybody had a cell phone. Not really everybody, but a lot of people had a cell phone, mostly. And so through that, this incredible discovery made us think about how could we do something? Because they had a cell phone, but they didn't know the language. So what could we do? What could we do to try to have a connection with them? We thought that tell a story, have them telling a story would be important for them. Because if you tell a story, you can actually emerge from obscurity. If you get to have them speak and talk to us, it would be, if you get these people to have the possibility to tell a story, then you will overcome the problem of not knowing them. So what we did is basically we went to Syracuse, where there was this amazing NGO that was held by Miss Carla Trommino. What did she do? Basically, she said, okay, all these kids that arrive in Syracuse, they are left alone. The law is very complicated because there are so many people and they don't know how to, sorry, just some water. I apologize, I'm just a little bit emotional. So what did she do? She basically, she was a lawyer, and she said, okay, these kids need a way to be saved. I am a lawyer, and I can do that. She took 150 women, and she went into the first-time reception, and she basically tutored them. It means that when you arrive and you're underage in Italy, you need a very long process to actually get out from the first reception to the second reception. She basically said, fine, I'm a lawyer, I have all these people with me guaranteeing for them, I will help them. So she helped like 1,500 kids. We went to her and she said, okay, fine, we will help you to set this school, this kind of workshop. And so we went to Syracuse, and this is the picture of the first meeting. I was extremely nervous, more nervous than now. And those are the kids. They were like, yes, about 50 people. And we asked them, you know, how did they feel about telling us a story with her cell phone? And at the beginning, they really didn't get it. They just like stared at me blankly. They didn't understand what we were talking about. And I was like, oh my God, I just came here, this whole thing we've been working on, and then they are actually not interested. Not only they're not interested, but I started also think maybe, you know, it's not ethical because they have so many incredible problems that how, you know, making a workshop of, with a cell phone would be interesting for them. Why would they accept? You know, they stared. One was like really on his cell phone. And in the end, I just said, okay, let's give it a try. I said, listen, you don't have to tell a story. What do you like? And a guy raised his hands and said, The Fast and the Furious. So I was like, you mean The Fast and the Furious? And he was like, yes, The Fast and the Furious. Okay, fine, I can relate to that. I know what we're talking about. And so I said, fine, you know, if you like The Fast and the Furious, you can actually, you know, take the cell phone and make stories about cars, whatever interests you. So 1.5 years later, we have like 1,000 videos. The guy of The Fast and the Furious, his first video was about him disassembling and reassembling his motorbike. That was great. I mean, we were all very excited. The only problem is that he was only one shot and it lasted 15 minutes. So, of course, it's not that everybody has a cell phone and everybody knows how to use a cell phone, no? We make videos, etc. But to use in a really good way a cell phone is not that easy. It's like a camera. So, you know, we set some rules and we made we tried to explain them. This is Caccia, which is a documentarist who was the main tutor of the whole project. And this is the first class. There were 38. And so we set few rules. But the most important rules we actually set is that there were no topics. We decided together that the best way to have them, you know, feel free was to not give them any kind of topic. They could actually film whatever they wanted. Freedom sometimes, you know, it's dangerous because you have a lot of choices and it can give you the blank, you know, the terror of the blank page. But it can give you also a lot of surprises. So after having a class with a director of photography, for instance, Lamin, this guy from Nigeria, made this video.
Luz.
So, how many of you, when you shoot your cell phone and you shoot a video, you shoot it vertically? You should, no, liars, it's more than that. It's more than that. So we basically set one rule, which is that you have to make it horizontal. If you want to use the cell phone and try to have, a clear image, you have to make it horizontal. So this is the director of photography, and that was, I can really promise you, the most difficult thing to get done. I mean, nobody wanted to turn the cell phone horizontally. It's not something that comes natural. And maybe it's not right. Maybe, we changed so many times ratio in the last century that maybe the future is vertical. But for the moment, for them, we decided it had to be horizontal because movie screens and TV are still like that. We had a sound designer. This is Mirko. This is a great sound designer. He's actually blind. He has an amazing ear. And he really understood the incredible tradition that these kids have with the sound and the music. You don't know how many videos we had that were made just with the sound of nature, the sound of the wind, the sound of the water. It's incredible how this class was successful. So here we are discussing. It took us 8 months of meetings, twice a week. I don't know if I said it before, sorry. The workshop lasted 8 months for 2 times a month. And it was not really easy to have them come because of the fact that I told you before. Their life is really complicated. I mean, sometimes they wouldn't show up because they have a visa problem, another time because they were just extremely sad. We decided to show movies, and no, we didn't show The Fast and the Furious. The first class we had, we showed the screen test of Andy Warhol. I don't know if you know, if you ever watched a screen test of Andy Warhol. This is E.G. Sedgwick, and this woman, her name is not known. Basically, Andy Warhol did this kind of selfie in the 1960s, where people would get into his factory and would just be silent in front of the camera, and they would have to react to that. This woman, we showed her, and what happened to her is that very slowly she starts crying. So I was a little bit nervous when we showed this because they are still 16, 17 years kid, but the reception was incredible. They were like astonished and silent. And the week after, of course, we got a lot of that. They did the screen test. Some of them were silent, some of them were smiling, many of them were just actually, making a presentation of themselves, who they were, what they felt like, and they were saying many times, thank you, thank you, thank you. Very grateful. Another movie we showed, this is Kim Ki-duk, which is a Korean director, pretty much tough. We shown a documentary he made in 2011, which is really a hardcore documentary because it's the story of a director who goes on a mountain in a totally secluded and he's very depressed because someone has died on a set where he was shooting. And basically he is recording his daily routine. So you see that he washes teeth, he pees he digs a little hole where he pees. It's like extremely tough. So the kids were kind of very intrigued with the kind of mystery of this weird documentary, and but they didn't know how to react to that, So the teacher Katja started doing films of his daily routine, like showering and brushing his teeth, and so they started doing the same. So this is a guy from Gambia. He did an entire 15 minutes routine inside the reception center. And what is amazing about this video is that the guy decided to give the cell phone to someone, And so basically he was followed. And you have this kind of images like, I don't know if you've ever seen the elephant. It's like he's walking, he's taking a coffee, he's hugging, he's like the boss of the reception center. And then he starts interviewing people. So basically, through images, through films, through talks, through discussions, they were slowly, this was a very slow process, starting to feel free to record life, to actually not be scared about what we were saying and what was happening to them. They would talk, and this is more, and see how cool they are. We are so used by the news to see them in a terrible, terrible situations, but actually they are just millennials. And what I really believe is that we gave them the permission to interact with the reality. And yes, and something that it's very important, not only for them, but for all teenagers right now, to raise their head from the cell phone and turn it towards the outside. Because, they lie. So the question is, okay, they raise their head, and what are they interested in? So really, after being inspired by films, and what I really discovered is that I had prejudice. I had prejudice, and not only about migrants, but about the value of art, and we will talk about this later. The thing is that even if I was the first one who was somehow wanted to go over the news and get to know better this little child, I somehow had written the story. I had written the screenplay before even meeting them. So I was actually, thinking they would actually tell horrible stories, very sad, and they would make me cry, and I would see, horrible situations, which actually some of them did. I mean, the old thing of talking about their life or their parents that are in Africa, it's important, it's a healing process, and we had also that. But in the end, they actually are kids like others, so they actually were interested in all the things that kids can do at their age in a very particular situation. For instance, we discovered something very interesting, that the pigeon's career, it's something that in Mali and Syracuse, this is the introduction of Mecca Sissoko. This is the first video he made.
Ciao a tutti, come state? A posto? Io sono Sissoko Mecca, devo Mali.
And we discovered he actually raised them in Mali. And we brought him to a place, to a friend of mine who actually does this in Syracuse. So what they're really interested is in what they see now, in what they see in their reality today. This is a video that I really love. Do we still have time? Do we still have time? That says a lot.
Bonjour les gars. Je suis dans un campagnat. Vous les Italiens, vous appelez ça campagnat. Oui, je travaille avec quelqu'un ici, mais il dit on fabrique l'huile avec ça. Donc moi, je n'ai jamais vu ça. Hein. Oui, c'est ça. L'arbre est là. J'espère que c'est le limon. Hein. Oui, c'est limone, ce que les Italiens appellent limone là.
Aranja.
Aranja. Lui, il s'appelle Salvatore, donc c'est lui qui me guide.
Quella uva.
Limon.
Guarda.
Ouais.
Limone grande.
Ça aussi, c'est limon.
Questo si mangia.
Le limon grand là. Ouais. Questo?
Questo cacchi, meno cacchi. Cacchi, cacchi, si chiama cacchi.
Cacchi.
Qua. Cacchi,
Chiama questo.
cacchi.
Il dit il s'appelle Cacchi.
Pira.
Il dit il s'appelle Pirate. Je pense que c'est goyave. Come si chiama questo?
Non mi ricordo.
Ah?
Non mi ricordo. Papà, come si chiama questo? Come si chiama questo? Che rubi zanzare.
Je n'ai jamais vu ça. Il y a beaucoup de choses en Afrique, mais ça, là, je ne l'ai jamais vu en Afrique.
So that was Mor, and he was discovering the arounds of this small town of Sicily, Naro, and it was very funny. I found it very interesting that, the small Virgilio that actually shows him the way is a little Italian, naked, and you don't actually understand I thought it was very, very, very interesting in terms of integration, right? I mean, what's the name of this fruit, like the basics? And I think that this interaction was so intimate because he had a cell phone. And he is one of the most prolific student we had, and he had this kind of approach to let me show you. So he would be like a YouTuber. I mean, he's like, let me show you what I discovered. Let me discover the garden. Let me show you my room. Let me show you. That was an interesting way of getting to know them. Another thing that I discovered that I found amazing is that they were really very interested in who we are. I think, and here we come back to the artist role, a migrant, a guy, a person that arrives from outside, looks at us with really eyes open. People think that a racist is actually doesn't like strangers because of their traditions, because they think they smell, or for reasons that these kind of reasons, the kind of tradition that they think are weird. But the reality is that what we really fear is is the fear that the others look at his tradition, is the fear to be somehow watched. And talking about art, there is this amazing painting that Picasso painted, Guernica, and maybe this explains better what I'm trying to tell you. You know that a Nazi asked him if he really painted that horrible pig paint, and he said, no, it's you, it's not me, it's you. So what I want to say is that many of the videos that the kids were actually shooting and doing were about us. They were really very interested in who we are. And, it's not really always very compelling. I mean, sorry. They would be very curious about our traditions. And, small kids going on small motorbikes, or the gay pride. I mean, they were looking at us and discovering who we were. In the end, we made a documentary. We edited through 1,000 videos, and we showed it, and it had a great reception. We just finished editing like a couple of months ago. But all our effort, this is a little bit ironical, but all our effort to go over the headlines of the news, of this sadness of these poor people, etc., Then the press said, you know, that's the title. Little kids, refugee with a smartphone that tells story of fear and the grief and integration. So the documentary is not at all about fear and grief and integration. So the narration, of course, it's always complicated to deliver in the way we want. But the idea, the whole idea was this, was to try to find a way to go, you know, to tell their stories without having filters, to have them actually being the protagonist and showing us who they were. The other idea, of course, was to use this as a tool for integration. So to show it, and we're going to show it in schools, so that, you know, teenagers can just actually see who these other teenagers from the other side of the world look like, behave, act like them in a different situation, but exactly in the same way. Thank you very much.
Bravo, Camilla. Gracias. Camila, ahora,
Camilla,
ese grupo de chicos,
right now,
¿dónde está?
where is that group of kids?
Can I answer in English? Well, we started, there were 38 actually, and then of course during the whole process they became less. The one that really were inspired and got excited and were basically 10, and they still continue sending videos. I mean, we were like, the project is finished, but they don't want to hear about that because they got so excited. And then also in the social media, because of course we are all followers now and friends, etc. Even the ones that actually drop out the class, they make videos, and they make in a different way. Like, they really make videos a lot and all the time, and they're great. So from our project point of view, it has been a success. From a humanitarian human point of view, a relationship point of view, it's very complicated for us because we started, of course, an incredible relationship, a great friendship, and the problem in Italy with the law, in Europe with the law, is that when they turn 18, they are not anymore refugee. When they arrive, they are refugee until they're 18 years old. After 18 years old, they have to get a visa, and to get this visa, they have to prove that actually they need to stay in our country. To have the title of refugee is very, very complicated. We used to give humanitarian visa, which is something that, you know, if you can't go back to your country because you don't have any more a family, or you don't know how to provide for yourself. Of course, no, we would keep you here. But with the new law, the new administration, there has been this, they basically said that they don't want to give more humanitarian visa. So to answer to your question, what's going to happen with them, it depends on case by case, their story, and if they're lucky, who is the commission who listened to them. If they have a good lawyer, like for instance, all these kids have this amazing lawyer who founded this NGO. So we hope that they are in good hands.
Hi, I wanted to ask if the kids were involved in the final cut, in the editing of the documentary, and how did they like it?
No, they didn't. It was very complicated to edit this movie. Because we had more than 1,000 videos, and because, of course, it's not like you know, a movie where just you want to have the best and be entertaining. So we had this kind of responsibility towards all the people that followed the workshop. So what we did is a lot of footage. It's on the website. So basically, we're trying to have them being protagonists in all the way. For what concerns the documentary, it's our choices. It took us a lot of time to choose, and we showed it to them in festivals in Sicily. We had like 4 festivals just in the month of July, and it was amazing. They were absolutely amazed. Now they are kind of also think they're going to be actors. I mean, like we have to somehow cope with this kind of a problem. But
Ok, otra pregunta.
Any other questions?
¿Qué está haciendo ahora el grupo?
What is the group doing?
Refuture, ¿qué está haciendo ahora? ¿Cuál
What
es el
is
próximo proyecto?
Refuture doing?
Refuture was actually just for this project. Refuture is the Refugee Future. It's an acronym, and it was we actually built it together after a grant that we won from the EU. There was a call that wanted projects from creative people in collaboration with social workers. So we applied and we gave this name, which is Refuture. The whole process of Refuture, which is the workshop in Sicily, we have a university that is connected to the project, who actually is delivering in 140 countries these videos, and going to universities to talk about the project. We have a TED, because TED is a partner with us, and so we will have a TED in September, all with the topic of refugee. So we will, talk about this project, and then this whole organization, of course, then resumed in the documentary, which name is Tumaranké. I forgot to show you actually a video. It was very funny. Tumaranké means in Bambara, travelers in looking for better fortune, migrant. So that's the title of the documentary. And so now we are actually very, very into how to have the school, get into the school and have the kids watch it, because we go to festivals, it's gonna go on television, but what we really want is to get in schools. So at the moment, this is the main issues to show the documentary. We had from the European community many requests if we could actually do it, like in Belgium, for instance, where there is an extremely problematic situation, as we know, and we are not ready. The thing that we want to, the message that we really want to deliver is that this is like a format. Everybody can do it. You just need, an NGO that helps you, a good teacher that is able to, use a cell phone and talk to kids. A lot of patience, and it doesn't have to. You don't have to have a documentary in the end. We actually are people from the movie industry, so we really wanted a documentary. But the thing is that is the process which is important. It's the thing to give them these kind of tools in order to feel free to express themselves and not only, be the victim of journalists who, with all respect to the category, with all respect to the category, but the idea of giving them an identity, that is the point of the whole process. If you tell a story, of course you are someone. So More, who goes through the fruits, of course it's someone that now you will remember. If I tell you he's an 18-year-old boy from Gambia who went through Libya and prison, yes, how many stories have you heard like that? I mean, hundreds. So that is the point, to give them some kind of really identity, and to have them not be scared of revealing themselves. There are many videos where they actually talk in the camera, of course, because this is something that it's somehow, the social media. I mean, we have this kind of, even, to have the strength, to have the courage to take a camera and just talk about what are your dreams. It's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's pretty intense.
Gracias, Camila. Sensacional. Ojalá,
Thank you, Camilla.
ojalá se
This is
expanda por
great,
otros países
and
de
we
Europa.
hope
Muchísimas
this will
gracias.
expand to other countries in Europe. Thank you very
Felicitaciones.
much.